Good.
Alrighty, we're on Facebook Live. Welcome, Talk Recovery fans. Thanks for joining us in studio with Francis Stone, and we got Susan Hogarth. We're talking about women and recovery, and British Columbia has a new youth program for teen girls, which is fantastic. So we're just getting ourselves ready here. We're still missing Darren, but Darren's parking his car. So yeah, you gotta put your headphones on. Yeah. Microphones are on. Alrighty, everybody, welcome to Talk Recovery Vancouver Radio, and we are at 100.5 FM, CFRO Radio, and thank you, Co-op Radio. Oh, there's Darren, he's at the door. So we come to you live every Thursday, noon till 1, here in our humble studio. Hello, Francis Stone, how are you?
Hi, Giuseppe, I'm good.
I'm good. Darren's going to be walking in that door in about 30 seconds, so we can let him in. So Talk Recovery Radio brings you different pathways to recovery, and we try our best to have conversations by bringing many different experts to the show. And we've been on the show almost 5 years.
Almost 5 years, yeah.
Yeah, and just for all of our fans out there that are watching us on Facebook, hello, my headphones are broken. Yes, everyone's making fun of my headphones.
God,
Yes, you just took a picture. I have broken headphones, so we'll be doing a tech report
This is totally
later on.
Totally
but
ruin your
hey,
diva
man,
image.
I show up no matter what. Broken heels, bad wigs, whatever, it doesn't matter. You just go on with the show and you just act as if everything's fine, right? So we usually talk about hot topics, and this week in the news, the BC government is challenging the Oxycontin and other prescription medications that have been prescribed, and talking about the overdose crisis and so forth, and just the consequences from all those prescriptions. And it's interesting because you know, I just don't think money is what they should be going after. I personally think they should be doing criminal charges, because this kind of stuff's all wrapped up in their budgets. Like, they already knew, they made billions of dollars, and now they're going to get a fine for maybe $100 million, $200 million, maybe even $500 million. Like, they're worth billions. They made billions. So it's all wrapped up in their budget. Like, send them to jail. If there's like real criminal negligence, and like send people to jail, because I don't think these people in suits and ties are ever going to learn, because they're just playing with money.
I think it's worth like a decent statement. I think it's better than doing nothing, but I just think it's just a little bit too little, a little bit too late. But
Still,
it's something. I think it's worthwhile to even make the statement.
4,000 dead Canadians.
Well, it had to make some sort of statement.
Yeah, I think they should make
doing nothing sucks too. So
one of those things. Unfortunately, tomorrow is another day that we get to remember those lost too soon. I think I got my dates right. Tomorrow is Overdose Awareness Day, and so we just as a show, we want to acknowledge that. Check your social media listings and so forth to find out what's going on out there, so you can participate in some type of event that's happening for Overdose Awareness Day. So we have 2 guests on our show today. Our second half of the show will be personal story, and the first half of our show we always have an expert on our show, and she's a friend of mine as well. But I'm going to let Francis take over the interview. Francis, who do we have on the show today?
thanks, Giuseppe. So today we're talking to Susan Hogarth, who is the Executive Director of Westminster House Society for Women. Welcome to Talk Recovery, Susan.
Thank you, Francis. Thanks for having me.
So you're in recovery. I think you just celebrated a milestone recently.
Yeah, recently I have taken 10 years of clean and sober time. It's been quite a journey. It's really bittersweet to kind of be 10 years clean, because like I'm 10 years older, and I also turned 50 this year. So, but being 10 years clean and everything that I've done and I've learned along the way has really just lended itself to my position at Westminster House.
Awesome. And Westminster House has really grown since you've become executive director. Where are you? How many clients do you serve on a weekly basis or roundabout?
So with all of our programs we have detox stabilization, primary care, second stage, transitional stage, and sober living. So, and with our family programs, our meal program and alumni program, we probably serve about, I would say, 200 people per week.
Okay.
Including the meals that we give out on a weekly basis.
And I've been there for the meals, and they're amazing.
Yeah, we have an amazing chef at Westminster House.
You do, and it's super healthy, which is great.
And and nutrition is a really big part of what we do at Westminster House. As we've grown, we've learned about the different pieces of recovery capital that we need to implement into our program. And nutritional wellness is one of the big components that we use to get women healthy without overfeeding them.
And I think a key component of Westminster House and the Last Door is the community that exists in New Westminster, and even the different programs that you guys do over the summer, that sort of thing. Can you tell us a little bit about different events that have happened this summer with like the men and women, and why that's important, why that community is important to treatment?
Absolutely. So we have a really big social model of recovery in New Westminster, and we work with the Last Door, and we have especially worked for the Last Door for about the last 15 years. And through the time that we've been working with them, we've built a lot of socialization. We do a lot of recovery dances. We have a sports day that we just completed. We did it in the rain this year, but it was really fun for everybody. Last Door hosts a family fun day, which we are sponsor, and our alumni and families are allowed to participate in. We have Recovery Week that is coming up next week, which is really exciting for all of us. We participate in the Recovery Capital Conference. We have Recovery Day coming on September 8th. There's a Recovery Ride Out on September 16th, I think, but that's more... those are Last Door events, but we just have a huge social model. Everything that we do it within our community. We use the community resources that are there. Nothing really happens within Westminster House. All the program happens outside of the facility.
Right, and one thing I noticed about what the Last Door and Westminster House have in common is the fact that they really teach people how to live clean, sober, and just being of service, how to just create a new life. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree.
So, and then the Last Door already has a youth house, and now Westminster House has just created a youth house.
Yeah, absolutely. So in about May of 2018, the Board of Directors approved a pilot project for a small youth facility, which we opened on August 1st. The program is suitable for 3 to 4 young people. Right now, we currently have 2 clients. We have 1 bed available, and it's been a really great learning experience, and it's been really fun working with the youth so far.
And how difficult is it to open a youth treatment center?
Well, there's definitely some hurdles that you have to cross over with the city with permitting and to make sure that the facility is suitable. And then there's the staffing. You have to have the proper staffing model. And, we've been serving 18-year-olds for about the last 10 years on an adult variance, which is a license that we can get to serve youth. And what we noticed is that they weren't able to participate in our program. So about a year ago, we started talking about how we could change that for the youth and what we would need to do to be able to have successful outcomes for the younger people. Because as addiction has changed, the age keeps getting younger and younger. When I got clean, 10 years ago, most of the women were 35 and older, and now most of the girls are 25 and under. And so we really needed to look at that and address that need. On a daily basis, we were getting phone calls from families that needed help for their young person, and there was really nowhere for them to go, especially in the Fraser Health Authority. And so we kind of decided that we were going to take a risk and see if we could serve this population, and so far it's been really good. Luckily, we have a really great community, and Last Door's been doing youth for about 11 years, I believe, and so we've been able to watch what they're doing. Of course, girls are a lot different than boys, but still having that peer support model in the community, it's been really challenging, but it's been really fun. And we're brand new, so it's work in progress, and every day we change our rules a little bit. So it's kind of neat that way that we have that flexibility.
And then is there like more difficulty in terms of youth even wanting to get clean? Like I couldn't imagine at like 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 wanting to.
Well, I think that goes to say for people in general, like, do you want to get clean? I know for myself, like, I knew about, my sister was in recovery a long time before me, so I knew about getting clean, but I really didn't want to stop using drugs. And I think that happens a lot in addiction recovery, that really it's not until the absolute rock bottom that somebody reaches out for help. It's pretty easy to be loaded in this province, let's face that. And so with the youth, what I found is they want to be clean, but they still want to be able to be youth. And so we've really had to design the program where they don't have to participate like an adult would, but they still need to be practicing recovery. And so it's work in progress, and we're certainly learning as we go along.
Now, when you say that, does that mean that they wouldn't necessarily like discuss, any traumatic situations kind of thing, but that they would just learn how to live sober?
Absolutely. So one thing that Westminster House prides herself on is we really don't talk too much about trauma and mental health disorders until somebody's about 3 months clean, because we really don't know what's going on with their mental health until they're clean from substances. We would hate to have to misdiagnose somebody with a mental illness when they actually were just withdrawing from crystal meth. So we're really careful about that. So far, we haven't divulged too much into speaking to the youth about, their mental health. We're really just trying to get them used to, not being with their parents, not having to use drugs and alcohol, making new friends, trying to get back into a little bit of a routine. As we know, when we come in from addiction, we have really no routine. Our routine is just around how are we going to get dope. And then when you get clean, you have to kind of learn how to do a routine again. So it's been pretty fun. So, I'm really looking forward to see how it turns out at the end of the 6 months.
And then in terms of like parents and families, is it harder to manage youth that are younger, that are still under like parental guidance?
Well, I mean, you're a parent yourself, Francis, right? So these are people's children.
Yes, I can only imagine how much I'd be calling.
So yeah, exactly. And so with adults, you don't have we have a really strong family program, and parents come to the family program and they visit their loved ones, and a lot of times it's the mother that's in treatment or the aunt. Even the grandmothers. So now we've got this large demographic of children where the parents are worried about them. And I have a daughter myself, and like I thank God every day that she's managed to skip a generation of this deadly disease. And I just couldn't even imagine having to go through that with her. I do go through it with my nephew, who is heavily addicted to opioids and, on the downtown east side himself, taking advantage of the free services that are allotted to addicts in the downtown east side.
And in terms of, sorry, I have lots of questions, but I guess that's what I do here. But anyhow, you're doing great.
I feel a little bit less nervous now.
Oh, okay, well that's good. Well, you've got great answers. You're totally prepared, which is great. You must be good at what you do. So it's awesome.
Some days.
Some days. Well, today is one of those days. So good job. So I'm just wondering, in terms of like even methadone and Suboxone and stuff like that, like is that something that they give 16-year-old? Like, I mean, I think children, like, do they?
So absolutely they do. So from our experience, we've had 2 youth on a harm reduction medication. It's not something that we encourage. I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to make my opinion about that type of thing. What I do know is that our goal at Westminster House is abstinence. And we believe that people should have the opportunity to at least try to be abstinent at least a couple of times. I mean, it's hard to get clean, and when you're using the medical interventions, a lot of time you're still not yourself. Like, you need to kind of get in touch with yourself, and to be able to properly diagnose mental health and all those types of things, you need to be clean.
Right, and I would imagine like at 16 you're just even learning who that is, and you're still going through like hormonal things. Like, I couldn't imagine what the effect of like being on Suboxone or methadone, but then again, being on crack or heroin would be bad too. So I don't know.
Exactly. And so I've never taken Suboxone, so I wouldn't have opinion about how somebody would feel on that. What I do know is that harm reduction and our medical interventions on addiction are definitely needed right now because of the severity of the opioid overdose crisis and the strength of the drugs. But in saying that, we need to find the way to build people up using recovery capital, build them up nutritionally, physically, build their education, get them safe, supportive housing, teach them how to do exercise, teach them emotional wellness, so that when they come off their medication, they can stay clean. Without those supports in place, it's more difficult to stay clean. You need to have friends. You need to have community. You have to have safe, supportive housing. You need to be healthy. You have to have a routine. You need to be educated or have a good job or be striving to be better. You know, what's really great is one thing that I've been noticing, and I am speaking at the Recovery Capital Conference kind of about this. I know Giuseppe's probably wants me to say a little bit more. I was thinking about my training. As I was writing my presentation, I was thinking about my training because I'm a professional salesperson by trade from when, like, I learned that trade, the art of persuasion, at about 18 years old. And one of the mentors that I had, that I read a lot of books and I watched a lot of, they used to do, not YouTube, but it was just TV video cassettes. And his name was Zig Ziglar, and he was like a fantastic mentor. I don't think he had a master's degree. You can look up his quotes on, and he was a leader in the sales field. And I followed him and did what he did, and I became extremely successful. And I wonder, why aren't we doing this in the recovery field? We have people that are 35 years clean, that have so much experience, and they know how to stay clean. Why aren't the policymakers asking them what to do? We should be following our leaders, not trying to create a new pathway. Take the pathway that's already being formed by people that know how to stay clean. Because at the end of the day, that's what we want to do. We want to stay clean. We want to build recovery capital. We want to get to our families. We want to have careers. We want to have lives, good housing, and be like a part of life. Have citizenship. Vote. Go to the grocery store. Like simple things. And then more complicated things. Maybe be an accountant or get a law degree, or maybe be an addictions doctor for anybody out there looking for a new career path.
Yeah, I agree. I think that even with the Recovery Week coming up, I think it's Recovery Week, Recovery Month, Recovery Day, Recovery in September.
Yeah, when are we going to be talking about that on the show? That's next week.
That is next week. Recovery Week is taking place September 3rd to September 10th. Susan and I are both on the committee, which is exciting. One of the things that Susan's going to be doing is she's going to be talking about Recovery Capital at the Recovery Capital Conference, which is next week. Building recovery capital in women.
Yeah, building recovery capital, period. You know, and the interesting thing is when I first heard the concept of recovery capital, I found it confusing. And then I picked up a couple YouTube videos and I started watching and studying it, and it's actually a fantastic concept, and it can be used anywhere in any type of life. And basically, you know, what recovery capital is building up the assets that you already have. Like, what are you great at? Build that up. You know, what do you want to be great at? Work at that. Like, nobody wants to be a great crackhead. Right?
Some people do.
Well, apparently I wasn't a very good one.
some people do, and I mean, you know, we got to remember, some people want to just be able to use drugs successfully, and we can't lose sight of that. And we need to. I truly believe, and I've always been an advocate, Canadians deserve a right to choose their own destiny. And if it's being clean, it's being clean. If it's being sober, it's being sober. If it's being a person in long-term recovery, it's being a person in long-term recovery. If it's being somebody that just uses heroin every day from a prescription, then that's...
And I agree with you to that degree. Now, I don't know if any of you listeners have been down here, but this is a really interesting part of town where this radio station is. And when I was getting out of the car today, I had a broken heart. Now, it's Welfare Wednesday this week, and it's like very tragic outside. And I don't believe that that's fair to have people living like that are on the streets, that are dying from drug addiction. Like, where is the government stepping in and picking these people off the ground and getting them into treatment? I am devastated. I haven't been down here for a really long time. I'm sad because I know my nephew's down here somewhere, and I just feel really heartbroken for those people, and they're heartbroken. They are broken. I caught the eye of a woman as I was walking in today, and I could just see she just had that somebody please help me. But by the time somebody comes to help her, she's just going to need another fix. Yeah. And that's the truth of it. And it's like, we got to stop gotta stop digging the hole for these people. We need to pull them out of the hole. I don't know what the solution is, but I know that the solution isn't what we're doing right now, because like I say, come on down here and have a look, because it's like not a very good day down on the downtown east side. It's heartbreaking, and I just really felt like I needed to say that, because you guys come here every Thursday and you see that and you get desensitized,
I talk
right?
a lot about the shock value syndrome. It's like when you first come down here, you're shocked. And when you come down here again, you're still kind of shocked. And then eventually it's like, there's somebody shooting heroin. Like, not just... Okay, wait a minute. They're not just shooting heroin. They're actually on a couch set up in front of our studio shooting heroin. And it just becomes normalized. Like, if you were to pull that couch out and do it, like, in West Van or North Van, like, it would be zero tolerance. And
well, I don't want my family down here. I don't want my family down here. They need to stop making it so easy. Like, something's got to happen like that. I don't know why I'm so traumatized by that today. Maybe it's because I know that my nephew's down here. But, like, something's got to happen. That can't go on. There's kids play down here. There's kids walking around down here.
one thing I did notice, too, is the age of the people outside.
Oh.
Like, 10 years of coming around here and so forth. Like, out front of the studio right now, there's a group of people that all look to be under the age of 24.
They definitely are.
And it's just a group of kids using needles. The hands are all cut up, like just completely,
Addicted.
in psychosis, some of them, and it's just super sad. Okay, let's go back on topic.
Okay.
Recovery capital.
In women.
In women. So, what are some of the challenges Westminster House has with, like clients leave?
Clients leave. And I think, okay, one of the challenges is a really good point, because there's two things that we have that we face on a regular basis: body dysmorphia and eating disorders, and sexual exploitation. And those two things are very prevalent in the women that come into Westminster House, some of the demographic of them, because we also have professionals there as well. And so that's why the nutrition and building the nutritional recovery capital is so important at Westminster House, because we want to be able to keep people healthy, but we also want to make sure that they're not acting out on their eating disorders, because this world is worried about getting fat. And so that's the first thing that happens when you starved yourself from drugs and you're coming into treatment and you're all skinny and you think you're looking all hot, but you're really not. You're really malnourished. So we really are careful to be able to feed them healthy, nutritional meals that aren't going to bulk them up, because we wouldn't want them to start acting out in an eating disorder. And, a lot of times women look in the mirror and they can look amazing and they still think they don't look right. And that body dysmorphia is something we deal with on a regular basis. Second thing that's very prevalent is sexual exploitation and addiction to money, and addiction to being in a codependent relationship with pimps. Those types of things, and we have to build self-esteem and recovery capital, emotional recovery capital. We use a lot of meditations and things to get some self-esteem. And then we have, if you complete our full continuum of care, you're eligible for an education bursary, and we give away a lot of money for school, because we need to retrain a lot of women so that they can go on and get careers versus jobs, because you're not going to have a high-paid escort who's making $1,000 a night working at Starbucks. She's going to get clean and she's going to try to work clean, and it never works. It never works.
I'm so glad you're being so honest about it, because everyone's, this overdose crisis, and the only thing everybody talks about is Suboxone and prescription heroin, and it's like, holy smokes, there's so many issues. There's
It's
so
so
many
complicated.
issues. It's like, Suboxone is not going to fix that.
Well, I mean, considering that 80% of our clients are alcoholic.
It's like, can we please talk about the full continuum of care? Like, how are we going to deal with this?
Well, this is the thing, right? Once you take, your medicine, which some people would call your drugs and alcohol, or whatever you're doing, your sex, your shopping, your working, whatever it is you're doing, you're still left with a person that's completely broken. How are you going to put them back together in a safe way so that they can exit the whole addiction cycle? And you really have to rebuild a person. And this tool that we have called Recovery Capital is how we're going to do it. And we've been watching people in the New Westminster community doing this for 30 years. Nobody's paying attention, but thousands of people are staying clean. And it's through this building of recovery capital, finding community, being a volunteer, voting, having a house, getting a job or attending school, looking after your wellness, eating a nutritional meal. meal, having a healthy relationship, visiting your family, you know, and being respectful to your family. All those types of things are just tools that you need to learn to be able to live life. Those are things we drop when we're in addiction. Those are all things we drop. They become second to addiction.
And it speaks so loudly of the need for long-term treatment.
Treatment at Westminster House is a year. Like, it's 3 months, but it's a year.
Yeah, and you think about the building capital in an individual after the detox has taken place, after the stabilization has taken place, after, you know, some management of medication and all that's required. Like, I mean, it's a requirement to have that environment be of a social model for longer than 2 weeks or 30 days.
Well, exactly. And so, you know, one of the things that the New West recovery community does so well is build those support groups. So, like at Westminster House, we have a 30-day mandatory primary care, and then you have a second stage, which is a couple months, and then you have a kind of a third stage, which is about 3 months. And then, you know, we keep people engaged by providing educational opportunities. We have a $5,000 scholarship that we give away once a year, and we have a meal program, and we open the doors for gratitude. And if you're an alumni, you can come and eat at Westminster House anytime. We have a volunteer program. We pay honorariums. We keep people engaged so that they stay engaged. And once you pass that 1 year mark, you're not in a safety zone, but you're a little bit safer than when you're 28 days clean. Like, I don't know anybody. Well, I do know a few people. Like, limited amount of people stay clean after a 28-day treatment program.
Mm-hmm. And that's usually because that's the time where, if that's your discharge date.
Well, that's your bubble bursting.
Yeah.
That's your bubble bursting right there. Like, the first 2 weeks are really hard, and then the next 2 weeks you're like, wow, this is so great. I can't believe how great it is. And then you kind of hit a wall, and it's like, oh, look at what I've done. Look at what I did to my family. I lost my job. I've got an impaired charge, or whatever it is. It's just starting to hit you at 30 days. And you send someone out the door, they're going right to the liquor store.
Mm-hmm. So your clients at Westminster House, with Recovery Day coming up, it's on the weekend. It's outside.
It's gonna be spectacular.
There's music. I mean, it is. You know, it's a clean event, but it's not enforced in any way. I mean, it's open to the public, and that's what we want. You know, for the public to come and see and experience what recovery is. What is it like? Your clients go to this event?
Oh yeah, they're gonna go. It's gonna be crazy down there. We're expecting 20,000 people. We have Matthew Good, he's our headliner. We have, one of the things I'm really proud of is we have the evidence booth. We'll be doing surveys, and you can come up and donate for a T-shirt. We're also gonna have a speaker's corner where you can do video testimonials as to why you're at Recovery Day. I'm sure it's gonna be like pretty busy down there. Yeah, our clients are absolutely gonna come. Sometimes they don't really like that big of a crowd. Sometimes they thrive on it. But if they don't like it, they go home. It's a block away.
Yeah, it's hard to regulate emotions in a big social setting like that when you're brand new and you know, clean for the first time or the eighth time, whatever. But you know, in hindsight, it becomes an experience of like, hey, I was a part of something where tens of thousands of people, mostly like clean, sober, in recovery, and that's a big deal, because I think the stigma that's attached to recovery is that you don't know who they are.
Exactly.
And you never get that amount of people, you know?
I think one of the biggest mistakes we've made, like in the last 60 years, is staying anonymous.
Yeah.
You know, like there's millions of people that are in recovery, and 50, 60 years ago we started these programs that were anonymous, and now these people aren't being counted. So I'm saying to you out there, listeners, if you are in an anonymous program, Saturday, September 8th is the day you can put on your recovery shirt and come down and become not anonymous. We need your support. We have to show people that the people in recovery, the people that are remaining anonymous in recovery need to be counted, and we are the evidence that recovery works and that abstinence is possible. And when people say it's not possible, it really affects me, because like I'm an abstinence-based recovery person for 10 years, and it worked for me, and believe me, I was not an easy case. I was just thinking about the first time I went to one of the recovery dances. Like I spent 30 years in a bar and I was so uncomfortable. I sat in the bathroom and cried, right? At my first recovery dance. But, lots changed since then, that's for sure.
I remember my first one. I was like, where did the beat go? Like,
Yeah.
I cannot find the beat to save my life. I was thinking about it the other day about how, remember like on when Donahue and Oprah and stuff, when somebody had an addiction problem, they would have that screen in front of them, so they'd just be like a shadow.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we've come a long way since then, but sometimes there is this desire for people to hide the person with an addiction as though but that's the shame. Like, that's the shame, that there's something to be ashamed of.
Well, society has taught that. Right? A lot of times our alumni say, don't put that picture up of me. It's going to ruin my career. Or what my boss is going to find out. And that's got to change. That's got to change so that people aren't scared what their boss is going to think. I'm really lucky because, number one, I am the boss. Number two, I don't really care anymore. I'll never leave the addiction field. That'll be the rest of my career. But not everybody's as fortunate as that, where, to come out might affect them. Maybe if they work at a bank or, or they're a pilot or whatever it might be, so that's what I got to say about that. Oh, and I'm getting to wrap it up. That was really fun.
That's we're talking with Susan Hogarth, director of Westminster House in New Westminster, talking about the new youth program. Did you say that has it kicked off?
It's
Sorry,
kicked off.
I came in a little late.
It's kicked off. Yeah, it's kicked off. We're having a lot of fun with it. It's been interesting, because my staff isn't really sure how to navigate, and we're learning. And what's good is that the clients that we do have right now, they're teaching us what they need. And we've got some young staff that have the spunk for it, and we're letting these clients help us build this program because we need to make it for them so that people will be able to stay and get the help they need.
What's the phone number at Westminster House?
604-524-5633. Speak with Jordan.
All right, so there you go, another resource added to something that's much, much needed in this field, youth addictions treatment for women. Thanks for coming in, Susan. Up next, we got Jeremy. Jeremy's going to share his personal story. He's going to become a little less anonymous with us in studio and on Facebook Live. So let's go with our first song. This is Current Swell. One Day I'll Be Rich.